down here will give a brief on it.
You're welcome. Good evening. It's great to have a big crowd out here. We're going to go ahead and get started. I welcome everybody to the Sierra Vista City Council meeting for December 12th, 2019. Madam Clerk, may we have a roll call, please?
Mayor Rick Mueller,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Rachel Gray,
Present.
Councilmember William Benning,
Present.
Councilmember Gwen Calhoun,
Present.
Councilmember Sarah Pacheco,
Present.
Councilmember Carolyn Umphrey,
Present.
Councilmember Christine Wolf.
Present.
Mr. Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Adams. Tonight, we're gonna ask the color guard for the Moraine Academy to come in, then we'll do the invocation and the Pledge of Allegiance. The invocation will be by Reverend Donna Smith of the Can't even say it, Donna, I'm sorry. Graceful Passages for Vets. So please rise. Reverend?
Please join me in prayer. Knowing that there's one power and one source that is flowing in and around and through this room tonight. Knowing that the mayor and each city council member is taking into consideration the perfect and highest best for the city of Sierra Vista. There's only perfection that is flowing here. Only the one spirit and one source is flowing throughout this room. And each item on the agenda is in perfect divine recognition, divine order, and divine resolution. And I know that everything is unfolding in the most perfect way because each thing, each item is divinely guided and inspired. And I simply say thank you for each person in this room. Thank you for Mayor Rick and each city council member. Thank you for all that is being brought forward to this presence this night. I simply say thank you, God, and allow it to be. And so it is. Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Please put your hand over your heart for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please be seated. First item tonight is the acceptance of the agenda. Mr. Benning.
Mayor Mueller, I move that the agenda for the regular city council meeting of December 12, 2019 be approved as written.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any additions, deletions, corrections on the agenda?
No, sir.
Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? 5, or 6 and 1 absent. Got to get my math right here. We now move on to awards and presentations. We have a number of commissioners that will be receiving certificates for their service to the city, followed by an award for the CAFR to Mr. Felix, followed by the first Lego League robotics presentation. And do we have anybody from the Buena Robotics? And are you going to be prepared to do your demonstration afterwards? Okay, great. So I'll come down front and we'll start calling commissioners up.
For all the ones.
We have a number of great citizens who volunteer to serve on our commissions, and tonight we want to be able to say thank thank you to those folks that are leaving commissions after, in most cases, 6 years of service, which is significant. And I would ask George Pullman if you'd come forward, please, sir. I'm going to get everybody up here, then I'm going to just wheedle your way around here. James Howe. Gene Fenstermacher. Gene, I didn't see Gene. Okay. Susanna. Didn't see her either. Well, this might go quicker than what we expected here. Dennis Desaland? Dennis? Okay. Yeah. Bob Carp? I know I saw Bob. Rosie Mackey, Rosie's here. Madison Montbleu? Madison? There we go. Youth Commission, I should have known. Okay. If you pass those to the individual. While I'm being ably assisted here, I'm going to take a moment to read the letter of appreciation that goes to all our commissioners. Obviously, the name changes on this as well. It says, on behalf of the City of Sierra Vista, please accept our sincere thank you for your efforts during your tenure on your commission. We sincerely appreciate your volunteering your time and energies for the betterment, thank you, for the betterment of the city and its citizens. Your efforts have helped to make Sierra Vista a special place, the special place that it is. Because of caring people like you, the city will continue to grow, prosper, diversify, and become the city that we envision for generations to come. A city that will offer a stable economy and a clean, beautiful, safe environment. Thank you again for your time and effort on behalf of Sierra Vista. It is certainly appreciated. Warmest regards, signed Frederick Mueller, the mayor. And we'd like to get a picture with you guys too, if we could. So we're going to have to scooch in and pretend like we know each other and like each other, okay?
Doing good so far.
We're doing good so far.
All right. 1, 2, 3. Thank you so much.
Again, thank you. All right, next up we have the CAFR. I'd like to ask Mr. Felix to come forward, please. Mr. Felix is a guy I refer to as the city's finance minister. And he's our chief financial officer, and he always seems to get awards for his finance operation, and he does keep us out of trouble fiscally in a number of ways, and he does a good job. And I will tell you, the people that work for him do an exceptional job under his leadership. So this is an award from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada. It's the award of financial reporting achievement to David J. Felix, CPA, Chief Financial Officer for the City of Sierra Vista, Arizona. And again, it's for financial reporting and the achievements in that, and the excellent CAFR that we get every year. So, again, thank you, David.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Want to say anything?
This is the 31st consecutive award the city has won. I maintain the tradition that came here before I started, and it's with the help of my staff, other department heads, and certain people in other departments that keep the information and give us what we need to get our job done. We appreciate all the help that everyone gives us.
Thank you, David. Congratulations. Next, I'd like to call up the group from the middle school who's going to come up and give us a demonstration on the Lego League robotics. Okay. So I don't know if this is, I wish that we had folks at home that could tell us whether that was on camera or not, but bottom line, it's all yours.
I don't need them.
You don't need the mic? Well, you won't be heard at home if you're talking. You have it, so you need it. Whoever's doing the demonstration needs to be able to talk on the mic.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay.
Get it either way.
Put that down on the floor. So, yeah, because you're blocking everybody. Okay. I'm Kelly Benning, and I am one of the robotics coaches at Joyce Clark Middle School. For those of you that aren't familiar with FLL or First Lego League, it is a great program that teaches the kids teamwork and how to research and how to be comfortable presenting in front of people. They learn so much. But there are several aspects to the First Lego League. Of course, there's the fun part. They build a robot out of Legos and they program it to complete missions. But they also get judged on their teamwork, how they work together. And then what brings us here tonight is they also have to do a research project. Every year it's a different theme. This year the robotics theme was City Shaper. So how you can improve your city and things that can be done to make it more accessible to people and friendlier to live in. So our team has done a project on how to improve one of our parks. And I'm going to turn it over to the kids.
Mm-hmm. Hi, I'm Kristen Goss, and today I will be talking about our problem. So our problem is how dogs burn their paws on the concrete when they're taken out for walks in the summer and stuff. So some of the problems that we found is when it's like 83 degrees outside, the sidewalk is about 103 degrees Fahrenheit. That is one of the many problems that we have with dogs burning their paws on the sidewalk.
And our solution was we designed a dog park with sidewalks, an agility course with a cooling system, and the cooling system would be this rubbery material right here. And under the material, we would run water pipes with cool water. And to cool the pipes, we would run the water deep enough so we wouldn't have to cool the water so we wouldn't have to have a refrigeration system. And we would also have water bowls. It would be also, the water would also fill water bowls so dogs can always have drinks when they are coming on the walk. We also had where the solar lights would power. They would power they would power, and we could get the money. The electric place could.
Take your time.
Okay, the electric place could pay us for the money so we could pay for our dog park. Mm-hmm. And we also came up with a volunteer doggy daycare where people could drop off their dogs and they could be walked on this pathway. And all the money would go to funding our dog park.
So the funding for this project would be about $12,000 in total. And how we are going to fund it is we are going to start a doggy daycare, which people can drop their dogs off at, and it would be funded through volunteers. So people could pay to drop their dog off and have someone take them on a walk or something like that. And we'd also accumulate money through the solar panels. So we would use the solar panels for electricity for lights. And all the unused electricity that we have can be sold back to the electricity company.
So the existing solutions that we found in order to get the solution that we have right now is that there are three main ways that people spread awareness or not burn their dog's paws about it. And it's shoes, little dog shoes, little dog socks, and people placing stickers on the ground that say, like, for example, to do a hand test, which is if you place your hand on the ground for 7 seconds, and if it's too hot, to not walk your dog.
So far, we have shared this with family and friends. We have also shared it with the other LEGO Robotics team and Sharon Flassar. Thank you. And we have shared it with our family and friends. We've also shared it with our teachers at school. And most of our teachers some of our teachers have come in to look at the project themselves.
Well, thank you very much. That was a very interesting presentation. Laura, you might want to talk to these youngsters and get some ideas for future parks.
Have any questions, to please ask them, because they compete Saturday, and the judges will certainly ask them some hard questions.
So, council or staff, any questions we can direct to these young folks?
Do you have a location that you wanted to focus?
It would be at the Tompkins Park.
So transforming the
We would do like a quarter of a mile just around one of the smaller grass areas. And we would, because it ties in with the dog park over there, so we would do that.
Okay, nice.
Has that surface been tested in other locations and proven to be effective to keep animals' paws, dogs' paws cool? Or is that something new?
It is something new that we came up with at the beginning of our LEGO Robotics year.
Oh, okay. A new invention of the material that you would use?
So the grip lock tiles are normally used in places like garages, so that when it's hot out, the garage. Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
The water running through was
Their idea. Wow. Okay.
Any other questions?
No, I think it's fantastic.
Awesome.
We
It's a
do
great,
okay.
you have great presentation.
The Friends of the Sierra Vista Animal Shelter over there, taking notes and.
Definitely found their next project.
Yeah.
I want to thank you all for being here this evening and sharing this with us. And we wish you do very well in your competition coming up.
Yeah.
And we're very pleased to be able to help you out in any way we can with this project. So thank you very much, Ms. Benning and guys or gals. I think it was a great presentation.
Yep.
Thank you.
They should bring that table up close.
Well, we're gonna have to do something with it here shortly. Okay, next up, we've got we're scheduled to have the Buena Robotics team, affectionately known as the Nerds, come up and do the demonstration. I guess we had a little challenge getting
It's right there.
It's right there, okay.
Oh, they're going to use the table?
So we'll give them a second to get set up here. They're going to provide a demonstration. If you're not aware, folks, the robotics team at the high school, as well as advisors from the college and UA South, have worked together for a number of years on robotics competitions. And the Nerds in particular have, in fact, been very successful in national competition, state and national competitions. So for one person, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what they're doing. And every year it's a different challenge. One year it was shooting basketballs in the hoop. And I don't know what the challenge is this year, but I can't wait to find out what's going on, guys. Was it? Yeah. There were two of them in the parade. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Tana Grant. I'm the lead ambassador of the Buena Robotics Club, and that is my wonderful president. And this is our competition robot. We took this to every competition after our build season last January, and it was 6 weeks to build this robot, design it, do all the intricate work in there, and then compete with it at 2 regionals, and we made it to Worlds, so we competed with teams that were on a national level. So a little bit about our team. We're involved in the community. We've gone to things like Oktoberfest, and we're really heavily involved in Relay for Life, which is the walk for cancer. If you don't know what that is, you should get involved with that. So we're good friends with those people. There's us getting awards with them and being at Oktoberfest, which was super fun. We support STEM in the community, so we do help with the middle school group. We don't get to do your guys as much as because you meet in the morning, but we do help the afternoon group. We help the police station with their the robots that they send out so that they don't have to put their officers' lives at stake. We help them with their robots when they're kind of breaking down. And we go to places like north of Grumman, and we also went to the police gave us an award, and so there's our president talking to one of the police daughter. You know, she was very interested, and we got her to get interested in her school's Lego robotics team. So this is kind of our competition, what we do. So first, the company that we go through, they give us a new game theme in January every year. We then build a robot that can complete the tasks that we're told to do. We have 6 weeks to build an entire robot, and we do get it done, or we don't, and then, you know, but we did get it done, don't worry. We have 1 or 2 regionals, and at these regionals is where we then can qualify to go to Worlds. And Worlds is where you compete against people from other countries, people from around America. It's a fun way to get to know people. And we love some other teams. We're good friends with a lot of teams in Arizona, and we're good friends with a team in Colorado. So this school year, last actual year, we went to Denver, Colorado, where we became good friends with some teams there. We placed here. Yeah, we won first place. Oh no, that's NAU. Sorry, we won first place at NAU, which was one of the regionals in Arizona. And then in Denver, we won, and we made it to Worlds, which was the first time in a couple of years that our team actually made 5 years. No. 8 years. Okay. 6? 10?
Her phone is
so, you know, the number just keeps going up anyway. She doesn't even speak to me. Wow. Anyway. Yeah, I promise we're smart enough to do math. Not me. But 10 years that we had actually gone to Worlds. So this was the first time. So it was a big deal for us to be able to go to Worlds. Our club, when we got to Worlds, it was scary. It was the first time in 10 years. So nobody in our club had ever been to Worlds before. Because, you know, we have seniors, and sometimes seniors get to go do things. This was the first time anyone really had gone to Worlds. So they were separated into different divisions. And in our division, we had 66 teams. And we placed 24th, which, you know, might not seem all that great, but for us, it was our first time there, and we, placed something, and we made it to we were finalists in our division, and we're from Sierra Vista, Arizona, so it felt really good, to be able to get there. That's kind of where we went last year, and then weird ordering, it's not on there. No, it is on there. It's right there. We went to Sangi, which is the state competition, which is after Worlds. It's very weirdly placed. I don't know why they do that. But it's against all of the Arizona teams. We meet in Phoenix, and we compete, and we actually won first place, along with two other teams. We were one of 3 teams that won first place. That was October. So this year was really great for us, and we thank a lot of the community coming and helping us. We thank, the kids who worked on this robot mostly. It was our team, and of course you guys for helping us. But so this year's been great, and we're hoping that this January we'll get a new theme, and we have to start all over again, rinse and repeat with the next year. So that is us. This is our robot. Yeah.
What was the theme for this one?
Oh,
what was the theme?
So it was sponsored by NASA.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah.
We got the NASA leader, don't know what he's called, but the
Director.
CEO,
Yeah,
I
the
guess.
director.
Yeah. He talked, the founder, he talked at our the huge finals for Worlds, and he was like, yeah, it was very cool.
There's a lot of opportunities and stuff. While we were at Worlds, they actually had a large area set up. It was like a huge workshop area with tons of
Yeah, the folks at home need to hear you, so.
Okay, so there were tons of other companies and lots of different things like that. They had Northrop Grumman, they had the Jacob Space Company, they had NASA, and they had stuff to just show us, and so we could look at, and it was pretty cool because a lot of us got to see that and explore that while we were also competing. So that was pretty awesome for us to go and see. Healy, if you want to come up, he can kind of talk about, oh, did he leave? Okay.
And what's the apparatus designed to do? Can you share that with us?
Yes. So some of the stuff we had to do for our tasks, there were about 5 or 6. So the first part of our competition, it's the first 15 seconds and it's autonomous. So meaning we either program it to do the stuff, but this year they changed it and they also made it not necessarily just open to autonomous, but they had it was called the Sandstorm. So we normally play over a glass kind of barrier to secure us so we don't die. And then they actually put a cover over that so we weren't able to see. So we were limited to use the camera, which you guys probably can't see, but it's right here. So we have it on kind of like a swivel so it can swivel back and forth. So we navigated without anything but the camera, which is our driver, he did. And so that was the first part, and it would just be to get past the baselines. But the main parts was this part. So it's our basket kind of thing. We had a kickball, and what the thing was is that there was a cargo ship, so it was like a big block kind of thing on the ground, and we had to place kickballs into the thing, so it was our cargo. So we had to load up the spaceship with cargo, but in order to do that, we had to put on hatch panels, which were big Lexan circles, which we used to pick up with this. So this thing closes using pistons, and so we latched on this way, and then we would open to make sure it kind of secured onto the robot, and we drove them around, placed the hatch panels using Velcro, and then once we were able to do that, we were able to put a ball into the cargo ship too. And we also had rockets, which were, I don't know how high, but they were pretty tall, taller than me, and we used our elevator to get the ball carrier higher so we could also put stuff in the house as well. And then at the very end of the competition, I believe it's the 30-second mark, and we have to climb. So there were 3 levels. There was a HAB level. They were called HABs. So there was a first to platform. It was just kind of like a little ramp, and we had to drive up onto, and we got points that way. And then there was also a first and a second level. So we had to find a way to climb, which our climber is kind of broken right now because it was a lot of wear and tear this year. And we would have to climb, but we were able to climb onto the third one, so the highest one we could. So that was pretty exciting because we've never made a climber like this, and it took a lot of work to try and figure out how to do it. Is it on so we can, not yet? Okay. Any other questions? Anybody?
Well, I just want to mention something.
Yes.
How do you get the funds to go on these trips?
We try and fundraise. We try and fundraise as much as we can. We're kind of lacking a lot on money this year. We get donations, gotten a lot of donation money from Northrop Grumman, And we also try and do fundraising. We fundraise at Art in the Park, so we go and volunteer and help the vendors set up, and we tear down and just help throughout the day with them. And they give us donations as our help. And then we also try and sell stuff. We sold at Art in the Park as well. We made little robot keychains. We made some spray painted coasters. And we also sold stuff for Relay for Life as a part of our contribution to that cause. And that's pretty much all we've been doing. We've also used Arizona tax credit, which is a huge deal for us because a lot of our members can do that and get a lot of money for their trips, which is up to $400. So we're still needing money though.
Okay, one of the reasons I asked that question for the folks out there is that it is at the end of the year, you are tax credit available. If you want to have an impact on local education on the thumbs up.
Yep, we did.
Okay. Okay, Healy, if you want to come. Okay, Healy is our driver. He's been new to this driving, but he's done an awesome job that we've been able to get to Worlds because of him, pretty much. So he'll drive it around and probably explain to you. I don't know if he wants to explain. Haley, do you want to explain while you're driving?
What's already been explained? Sure. What it does.
Oh, I'll just talk. Okay. We have to start in a certain parameters of our when we start our what is it called? Our game. So we had to ensure that our robot was in those parameters, and we had to make sure we build based off of those requirements. So there's a handbook, and it is pages and pages long, and we normally read that on the first day as soon as we get all of our information. So we have to make sure we take those things into consideration. As he made it come out, that was our hatch panel grabber, and it had the Lexan pieces on the side to ensure that it kind of stayed in place. And then the ball grabber, which is there. So a lot of our stuff is used with pneumatics, so we use the pneumatic pistons because it's easier and it doesn't take as much real energy to use. And then our camera. And can we activate our elevator? No.
I just think of Wally.
Okay. Okay. So, do you want to?
Yeah. Is what the camera sees, is that showing up on the computer?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So as far as when we're blind, I'm driving off of that laptop right there. There's a little window about like 4 inches wide of what this guy sees. So I can press the Y button on the controller and it flips the camera 180 degrees. And oh, there's a camera? Oh. So when that camera flips, it also flips all the controls. So when it's facing this way, this is the front of the robot. But once it flips, that's the front. So all the controls become inverse, so I don't have to think about whether I'm forward or backward. It's pretty nice.
Ready to enable? Not yet. Not yet? Okay.
So when I was their age, I was just reading Nancy Drew.
Should be good.
Enabled.
Okay.
Oh, look at
So there were 3 levels on the rocket ship because it was the first, second, and the third. It was the same scenario, putting hatch panels and then putting the cargo in the rocket. Although we made ours to only go to the second level because it was too hard to get in the requirements and we weren't sure how we were going to have both mechanisms to be able to do that. So yeah, and stability was in question, especially if we were going to climb to the third thing. So yeah. Does anybody have any questions on how it's run or anything? No?
Yeah. Any questions? Any questions? Well, thank you very much for the demonstration. These are always impressive. I watched you guys over the years, and you're doing some great things, and the teachers and the volunteers that help lead as well. And again, I'll just say that if you want to be able to make a contribution, you can do that. And fortunately, it's tax deductible, and this is the time of the year to look at that type of stuff. So I would encourage those that are interested in making a great investment in our good youth. This is one way to do it. So Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor? Actually said what nerds stand for.
I know what NERD stands for. When the first people who were making the club, they had the great, brilliant idea of making it an acronym. And they found words that would make sense with what they did that fit nerds. So it's Nifty Engineering Robotic Design Squad. Yeah. They had to add the Nifty in to make sure it would be, a nerd thing, but.
Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the city manager's report. Mr. Patuchik.
Thank you, Mayor Mueller, members of the council. Reminder that the work session scheduled for December 24th and the council meeting scheduled for December 26th have been canceled due to the Christmas holiday, which means your next work session will be Tuesday, January 7th, 2020. And then your first council meeting will be Thursday, January 9th of 2020. In terms of refuse pickups for the 2 holiday weeks, they are not affected except for there will be no special pickups because the 2 holidays fall on Wednesdays. So we have a few projects tonight. The street maintenance chip seal project, that is out to bid, and proposals will be accepted and opened on December 20th of this month. And then we have security gate replacements. The south gate at the Pedro Castro Center and the south gate at the police station need to be replaced, and those bids will be open January 16th. And then the Cove Therapy Pool resurfacing bids will be opened on December 18th. And the Rothery Center fence, which I talked about at the last council meeting, that was awarded to K&G on November 27th, and that work will be beginning shortly. So also with regards to the communication center, CCOM, we've hired Mr. Alan Smith of Chandler, Arizona to start, in fact, on Monday as the new director of CCOM. He retired as a commander with the Phoenix PD, so he's familiar with large organizations and police operations and public safety operations a few years ago, and he's anxious to get back into the workforce, and I think he will do a good job of leading CCOM as we move forward. Finally, on behalf of the staff, I want to wish all of Sierra Vista a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays and a prosperous New Year. And it's been a privilege to serve you during the past year, and we look forward to doing so again next year. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Patuchik. Any questions on Mr. Patuchik's report? No. I'm going to jump back on the agenda if it's okay. We already made presentations, but I noticed Colonel Fenstermacher's come in. So, Gene, I want to give you your certificate and thank you very much for your service to the Environmental Affairs Commission and all the other things you've done for us in the community. Thank you. Next up is item number, is it 3?
Two.
Consent
Not even on
agenda.
that page.
Ms. Humphrey, take a breath and go for it.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Here we go. I move that the consent agenda consisting of the City Council regular meeting minutes of November 14th, 2019, Resolution 2019-091, reappointment of Alvin Starve to the Sierra Vista Library Advisory Commission, Resolution 2019-092, reappointing Berlinda Shaft and John Matthew Moreno, and appointing Wesley Hewitt to the Parks and Recreation Commission, Resolution 2019-093, reappointing George Broxton III to the Tourism Commission, Resolution 2019-094, reappointment of Francisco J. Flores to the Sierra Vista Airport Commission, 2019-095, reappointment of Ronald Faulkner and appointment of Matthew Hopp to the Sierra Vista Environmental Affairs Commission. Resolution 2019-096, reappointment of Patricia Olson, Bradley Snyder, David Thompson, and appointment of David Grisham to the Planning and Zoning Commission. Resolution 2019-097, reappointment of Lori Scheckman and Kelly Norris to the Commission on Disability Issues. Resolution 2019-098, reappointing Christina Reinhardt and Jody Gadsden and appointing Jen Marie Selinek to the Arts and Humanities Commission. All terms to expire December 31st, 2021, and Resolution 2019-099, renewing the approval of the off-track wagering facility for Turf Paradise at PC's Lounge be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
No, just several of them are out here.
Yeah, several.
Yeah, several of the people mentioned are here, and we appreciate you coming to the meeting tonight. So I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much, and congratulations. We're looking forward to serving with you. We now move to the table item number 3. Do we have a mission to take item number 3 off the table?
Mr. Mayor, I move to remove Resolution 2019-075, modifications to refuse services and fee schedule from the table.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor of removing it from the table? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. So we're ready to discuss then item number 3. Can we have the staff report, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The proposed fee changes are in Table B attached to this resolution, and they are as follows. Temporary residential dumpster fees, the pool fee would change to $153.24 for 3 cubic yard dumpsters and $181.64 for 6 cubic yard dumpsters. The residential dumpster fee program would also change to only offer the 3 and the 6 cubic yard dumpsters.
Before you go further, you talked about Appendix B?
Yes,
in the
Mr. Mayor.
exhibit. I would entertain a motion to substitute Appendix B for Appendix A in the items, because right now the table item doesn't include item B or Appendix B. So we need to amend, before we start talking about that item, I would ask for an amendment to substitute Table B for Table A.
So moved.
It's been moved. Do we have a second? Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous. Thank you very much. Please continue. We caught up with you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The fees I just listed would be the pool fee, which would include delivery, rental, pickup, and disposal. The rental fees would change to $10.71 per month for the 3 cubic yard dumpster, $16.07 per month for the 6 cubic yard dumpster. Empty and return fees would be, as stated before, $153.24 for 3 cubic yard dumpsters, $181.64 for 6 cubic yard dumpsters. The disposal fees would be removed as they would now be included in the pool fee. For compost fees, the inbound fee or the drop-off fee for Sierra Vista residents would remain free. The fees for non-residential or non-Sierra Vista residents would change to $15 from $5. The fee for selling compost would increase $10 from $15 to $25, and the fees for mulch would remain the same. For special pickups, the bulky waste pickups would increase to $50 from $14.40, and there would remain no cost to Sierra Vista residents for special pickups for yard waste. The increased revenue from these fee increases is estimated at $274,012, and all fee and rate changes that will subsequently be discussed, if approved, would not pull the fund out of the hole this year. That would not likely happen until the following fiscal year 2021. I wanted to make sure that was clear.
Ending June 30th.
Yes.
2021. Yep.
I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Before we go to questions for the Assistant City Manager, we have one member of the public that would like to address us this evening, Mr. DiCarlo. And you know the rules about 5 minutes and the lights and all that other stuff. So
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor.
Bore you with that.
Appreciate it. No, I don't want to bore you either. It seems like I do when I keep having to come back here. Appreciate staff's work on all this. Council, Mr. Mayor, thank you, staff. Good to see everybody here. I had a few questions on this. One question would be, do we have a residential service for the citizens of Sierra Vista that is separate, that has the seal of the city on it, those trucks that service the residents? And if that is a residential service, how is it being financed by the corporate side, where we have bought all this equipment to take away our trash because it's a health hazard, but yet we still use the same type of equipment to run a corporate business? Last year, we came up short, and we tasked the citizens of Sierra Vista with an extra 10 or 15%, I can't come up with it off the top of my mind, to cover the corporate side. So the citizens have subsidized the corporation of Sierra Vista, the brand, the little squiggly lines and stuff we got, right? Like the sign that's come by the fort. The citizens have already subsidized that last year because of, first it was a loss of commercial accounts, and then you were redirected to recycling. And what we've been doing this entire time is recycling old ideas. We have the responsibility as a city to have residential trash service. That's it. That is our full and only responsibility as citizens. Now, if we're running a business off of that, on the other side, it is not the citizen's responsibility to make sure it turns a profit. If that business over there does not turn a profit, maybe it shouldn't be in business. What I was trying to do, listening to all your discussions, is, if you remember last time I had some graphs or pictures and stuff, I was trying to figure this out. Came up with another one here, and it's the refuge system. It is, can you put it on the camera for the folks, please? We have the refuge system. You have, on the right, you have residential, and on the left, you have all the commercial. Okay? So, as a resident, we pay money, the city comes twice a week, picks up our trash, takes it to the dump. And we're all billed that, and that is a service, government service, for the public health of everyone. Now, when we shift this and we go to the commercial side, and you gotta really listen to what was going on the last couple of work sessions, because what we've discovered is that recycling was presented as a residential service, but it is a commercial operation. So, recycling is a commercial operation, green waste is a commercial operation, and all the special pickups are commercial operations run to turn a profit. Now, the city was honest with us at the very beginning, staff was, said, we've had a terrible collapse of our commercial system. We didn't tell us that it was 95%, because that 95% rings into the recycling. We're told recycling's only 95% of the stuff that was once coming into recycling is no longer there. We only have 5% less. That kind of rhymes with this up here. The commercial of 1,300 customers, way to go, good job. Now we got less than 200. I couldn't remember if it was 118 or 180. It's in that ballpark. But because the business end cannot turn a profit over here and routinely, and it shows you, it only reduced its budget by like $100,000 last year. I think that perhaps one of you would inquire to look at, since the time privatization was permitted until now, what does that refuge budget look like? We lost 95% of our commercial accounts collectively, our business run for us by staff, but yet you're coming back and asking us for more money because you can't turn a profit. It just doesn't make sense how folks should be forced to enter into a commercial agreement with the brand of the city when the seal of the city is supposed to do the job. Comes with financing as well, same breakup. Over here, residential, pay in. We get our service, it goes to the dump. Okay? That's City of Sierra Vista seal, all right? Over here, this is, again, the corporate side. This is the City of Sierra Vista brand. Two separate entities. One is a service, one is a commercial brand or a commercial entity. They're both corporations, but they are separate. It's a shell game. And until we can figure out where the money's lost, which we've done a pretty good job displaying where the money's being lost at, but it's going to continue to just bleed itself dry because there are no customers.
Mr. DeCarlo, your time has expired.
Yes, sir. May I have a closing remark?
Very quick.
Yes, sir. Real quick. It's so quick that it's really easy. Ladies and gentlemen, we're at the precipice of actually all engaging unwittingly the citizens of Sierra Vista into a contractual obligation with the city unbeknownst to themselves by entering into a refuge system that funds it from the corporate side. I would suggest that we break up the financing to show what the real cost of residential service is and what the real loss of the corporation is. And then decide whether we even want to have that corporation or we need it. Because I got to tell you, coming back 10% at a time for one thing or another adds up. And in final closing, go Navy, beat Army.
Thank
Have
you,
a good
Mr.
night.
Thank you, Mr. DeCarlo, for your comments. Now, we go to council. Do you have discussion for this item?
I just have comments.
Yes, ma'am.
So, no, I just want to say we have really taken our time and asked a lot of questions and asked a lot of staff with this, and just want to say thank you to the staff. I'm satisfied with what we've come up with the fees, and we can address the other stuff in the other items. But with the fees, I'm just the deep dive that I think needed to be done into refuse. We were able to do that, and lessons learned for staff and council. So all in all, I think we've done a great job.
Go for it.
I'd like to mirror that. I'd like to say thank you for actually, and I think Carolyn posed the question to begin with way back when. I like that the staff went and broke it down, what's funding what, who's subsidizing what within our enterprise fund, because I didn't know. And I like seeing, one fund, commercial funds, whether we're competing with private companies or not, is still turning a profit and help subsidizing other aspects of that enterprise fund. And then where we're hurting on residential. So I'm glad you put in the time, and I'd rather take 3 months, 4 months to get something right than get it wrong the first time because we were rushed to judgment. We just wanted to get something done. So I thank everyone on council, and I think the staff are doing a great job.
Sir, did you want to say?
No, I would just echo that.
I'm just so thankful we're going to vote on this today.
4 months, yeah.
I have nothing else to say.
Anybody else? Well, I just want to make a comment that this has been a very thorough process that we've gone through. We've looked at all aspects of the enterprise fund. We only have one enterprise fund, and it has several sub-accounts, and that may have caused some confusions for some people. But the bottom line is we are focused, I believe, on providing the best service at the lowest cost possible in all those areas. And I think it's courageous for this council to sit up and say, we're not going to overcharge in one area to subsidize another area, et cetera. And if you look at what's been discussed and what's been proposed, basically we're trying to make all areas at least break even without having subsidy with the fee, at least the fees. They're here and the rates later on. So I'm in favor of moving ahead with this motion. Any other further discussion? I would also want to thank the staff because I know you got a lot of tough questions. We had our finance minister scratching his head a couple times trying to figure out what the heck the council was looking for, and that doesn't happen very often.
Lots of charts.
So I want to thank the council for taking the time to look at it thoroughly and get a well-founded understanding of the issues before we did this. So with that, if there's no other comments or questions.
We have to have a motion.
No, we made it.
You already made it.
Okay.
Yeah, and again, this is the motion with the Part B.
Amendment
Instead,
B.
Amendment B, the amendment that has
Table B.
Table B rather than Table A.
Yep.
Okay, and everybody understands that?
Part of it's on the screen, the rest of
Yeah,
it is.
yeah. Okay,
Can we move it
So-
up to show?
Oh, yeah.
we can slide it up in the back or not.
I know, I tried to touch it. I was just saying,
Yeah.
camera-
Trying to-
Technology, baby.
Memorandum, but, okay.
Because the
Not that
changes
fancy.
are on the lower part.
There we go.
There we go.
Yep, there we are.
All right. So any questions from the council, any further comments? With that, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We now move on to item number 4, which is a public hearing item. And Ms. Pacheco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2019-100 modifications to refuse rates be approved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Yarborough, may we have the staff report again, please?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This resolution proposes a 15% rate increase for residential refuse. A 60-day notice of the vote on the proposed rate increase was published on the city's website as required by the Arizona Revised Statutes. And this resolution would increase the residential refuse rates by 15% with an effective date of March 1st, 2020. And very quickly, those rates would change as follows. A 45-gallon container would change from $15.63 to $17.19, an increase of $1.56. A 65-gallon container would increase from $17.23 to $19.81 per month, an increase of $2.58. A 95-gallon container would change from $19.67 per month to $22.62, an increase of $2.95. And a 195-gallon container would change from $27.73 to $31.89, an increase of $4.16. This proposed rate increase would generate an estimated additional $361,960 of revenues, and there are no proposed increases to current commercial route rates. Staff did put together some additional information. I'm giving you some historical background on the refuse fund, our refuse rate history, a comparison of city residential rates to other cities, a comparison of various landfill rates from around the state, and then a comparison of Sierra Vista rates in 2018 with local private hauler customers. Those were sent out at around 3:30 and attached to this item for the public to review. It is loaded on the computer if council would like me to review those briefly, but it's there for your information. And that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Before I open it up for council, there was some concern on council as to whether this was whether we were opening this item up for 30 days or whether this is a final action vote.
It is 30-day opening for a 30-day public comment, Mr. Mayor.
Somebody was.
I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I'm incorrect. This would go into effect. The next item on the ordinance changes for recycling is a public comment item.
So, Mr. Mayor, if you do want to open it up for a 30-day public comment, you would need to amend the item to
do that. Okay.
We do want to do that. Can we still discuss it?
Sure.
Okay.
I just want to get a clarification before I open it up for discussion. Okay. Discussion on item number 4.
Well, I just wanted to see this. I wanted Victoria to present the history of changes that she talked about.
Oh, okay.
Just wanted to make sure that got in. Yes.
So the first slide is a brief history of the changes that have brought the refuse fund to where it currently is. The state law changed in 2015, which opened commercial refuse business to private haulers. And as we shared with you earlier this week, the city's large commercial customers, we had 1,375 in 2015, and that dropped to 188 in fiscal year 18 and 19 last year. The fund lost approximately $500,000 in revenue with that change. Also wanted to share that tipping fees have increased approximately 2% every year from 2009 to 2019, with the exception of 2 years ago it increased 10%. And a brief snapshot of how that changed follows from $47.75 a ton in 2009 to where we are today at $64 a ton in 2019. There are new pension reporting requirements that began last year, and what that means is the city now has to account for all of the retirement benefits that employees get. That was not a requirement before, and so that was an additional expense accounted for the fund. And then, of course, the recycling market collapsed in 2018. We shared the refuse rate history. 2008, we only went back 11 years, and that's where we were at in 2008 and where we'd be at today. We took a look around the state to compare residential refuse rates are around and some additional information on some of those, who owns their own landfills, who's contracted with outside companies, different size containers, and then different residents here. And I'll go into that a little more here at the end of the presentation, but just wanted you to have that for comparison to where our rates stand against the rest of the state. We also wanted to share what landfill rates. We pulled this information in 2018, and it was from a presentation last year that was given to council. These are costs, including Huachuca City here next door, of landfill tipping fees around the state. This information was also shared last year. We wanted to compare what residential rates were from various people within the county with private haulers. Full disclosure, I was customer B. That was my bill. So that's how various residents stacked up, and customer A and customer D, just a point of interest, were actually next door neighbors with the same company. So that is how rates are different throughout different people with the same.
Victoria, Rick, so you paid a quarterly bill on top of your monthly bill?
No, so I was
That's why I wanted to ask. I was confused.
I was a county resident. I lived just south of town, and so that was my cost for just trash every month.
Okay.
That information for comparison.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or discussion for Assistant City Manager? Council discussion? Yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask a question about Prescott. I noticed on your slide that Prescott has a once-a-week pickup. I don't think that's anything we ever considered.
We did talk about it.
Waiver,
And
an exception.
it's a possibility that
It's an
we,
expensive possibility.
well, that's open for the discussion.
Yeah.
but I wasn't clear on that.
Yeah.
Can you say a little bit more about that?
Chuck?
Yes, Mayor Mueller, Council Member Calhoun, there is a provision in administrative state law that would allow for a municipality to petition to go from the required 2 pickups per week to 1. Certainly, if the council would like us to pursue that, we could do that. I would be hesitant to recommend it for a couple reasons. One, I believe having 2 pickups helps keep Sierra Vista a clean community. We've had issues, obviously, with wildcat dumping and things like that in the past. Having 1 pickup might exacerbate that type of situation. And the other really is practical. I'll use myself as an example. Of course, my wife and I are empty nesters now and could probably get by with 1 pickup per week pretty easily. We certainly couldn't do that when our 2 boys were living at home. We really needed the 2 pickups when we had a family. So for those reasons, I would be reluctant to recommend going to 1 pickup per week. Also, your resident or your bill would not be cut in half as the result of going to one a week. You still have the truck, you still have the staff, you still have all the ancillary costs associated with the pickup. So while you could probably reduce it, it wouldn't be on the order of half.
Thank you.
Good answer. Just one more comment for me is I know there's been a lot of discussion about privatization of this, and it is something that council and I know that the city leadership does look at every time we have to look at all of these things to see if we are still competitive or if it would still be a better situation. We're not at that point. We are still below, as you can see, the county and the things that they're doing. So I just wanted to make the public aware. We do look at privatization. We do look at other alternatives at this point, though we still feel like it's best that we handle it.
Before I give it back to you, Chuck, on this issue, I will share with the public that and the council from talking with other mayors that have in fact gotten rid of their garbage systems. It seems that the private haulers give a good rate for the first couple of years, and then it graduates, and then they have no, they get complaints from the citizens about it, and there's no recourse once they've gone down that road. So that's an issue as well. Mr. Patucci.
Yeah, Mayor Mueller, members of the council, in a lot of cases, I favor privatization. The government, shouldn't be involved in certain things. In our particular case, with regards to refuse, we've got a couple things working. When you want to introduce privatization, you're obviously hoping for competition, and the competition then is what hopefully stabilizes and regulates the rates. That works very well in a large city environment, like in the Valley or Tucson. Here, in terms of the size of our operation, we're really only talking about one potential vendor for a residential service, and the city then provides the competition for that particular vendor. So if we went to privatization, we would actually be opening up to a monopoly situation as opposed to a competitive situation because of the size of our system and where we're at. So that would be a difficult thing. Also, on your comparison chart with rates, where the competition operates in the county, you can see that their rate structure is much higher than the cities, even with the proposed rate increase, and which I find interesting because they have the competitive advantage of going to Huachuca City and having a lower tipping fee of about $9 per ton tipping fee. So even with the disadvantage we have of being part of the county system with regards to the tipping fee, we're still able to keep our rates substantially lower than the private hauler operating in the county.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Of course, one thing leads to another, and it brings up a couple of other questions. One, with the huge loss that we sustained with the commercial, losing a lot of our commercial customers, is there any hope of regaining those customers? And are we regaining them bit by bit?
Well, Mayor Mueller, Council Member Calhoun, since the legislature changed the law to allow for privatization on commercial hauling, which I've talked to private haulers, and that was really the business that they really wanted to be able to compete against us. We have the disadvantage of going through this process that we're going through right now and having to fix and publish our rates. As a result, the private haulers are able to undercut us in order to get business fairly easily. And from that point on, we've really been steadily losing commercial business, and I dare say that we'll probably continue to lose as opposed to picking it up because we simply will not be able to match their rates for commercial hauling.
Thank you, Mr. Patucci. And one other question. You mentioned the tipping fee. Do we not have the option to use the Huachuca City landfill instead of the county landfill?
Mayor Mueller, Councilmember Calhoun, that's an excellent question. Right now, we are engaged in an intergovernmental agreement with Cochise County and the other municipalities that participate in the countywide landfill and transfer station system. That agreement expires in 2022. Rates had gone up steadily as a result of operating the landfill at the county, and we're currently in the process of paying back a subsidy of around $2 million that the supervisors were providing to the system.
It's all the cities are paying back.
All the cities are paying that, not just Sierra Vista. So if we did determine to go out and privatize our residential hauling, that we would have to require currently until 2022 that private hauler would have to use the Western Regional landfill that we have right now that is serving us and the other municipalities in the county. So whether or not a private hauler would bid based on that because they're currently using Huachuca City or going to Tucson, that I don't know at this point in time. without Sierra Vista's refuse going into the county landfill, the Western Regional Landfill up in Mustang Corners, it would be difficult for the county to operate the landfill with the amount of refuse generated from the other communities. Sierra Vista, it does generate the preponderance of refuse and consequently the revenue to operate the system.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. For either one, I guess, who wants to answer, does the city provide any public assistance for individuals that may be on fixed incomes or Medicare or any program like that?
Mayor, Councilmember Benny, yes, we do. The city has, if you are qualified for the financial aid by the federal government, you can bring in your information from the economic security, and you'll get a rate that is about half of the current rate.
Okay.
It is out there. We do not make the determination. You must have an approved item from the economic people down the road.
Right.
Is it DES?
DES.
Yes, yes.
Okay. Thanks, Felix.
Discussion? Ma'am?
Question. Would Huachuca City, just one more follow-up on that conversation, what's their capacity? I would think that, it's just.
Good question.
Guessing.
Mayor Mueller,
lot of discussion on that.
Councilmember Pacheco, that's actually a good question as well. Huachuca City intentionally keeps their rates lower in order to retain the Forts business. We do the residential, but they retain the Forts business, and obviously they're able to garner the business in the county as a result of keeping their rates lower than the county landfill system. But I don't know exactly what their capacity is. I know they're building up with it, so that calls that into question. The other thing with regards to the Huachuca City's landfill versus the county landfill is the county is operating a lined, permitted, and monitored landfill, which ensures environmental safety. The Huachuca City landfill is a grandfathered landfill and doesn't offer the same environmental protections that the county landfill provides.
Any other discussion? I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess my biggest concern on the rates being approved is how they've been presented to the public, in the sense that I do believe the staff has done a lot of work, and I think we probably do need the 15% increase. However, when you went into the public comment page, it was linked to only a 10% max increase. So I would ask that we put it forward for public comment for 30 days. It wouldn't change the effective date until March 1st. And I think the public could be more fully informed of what is going on.
Are you making a motion for an amendment?
Yes,
to
sir.
that effect?
I make the motion to amend to it to be a public comment 30-day period.
I second.
It's been seconded. Discussion. Yes, ma'am.
And if we open it up to 30 days, it keeps the effective date the same, even if we
Correct.
vote a month later. Okay.
So that just gives the public more time to see the 15%.
So that they understand that it's 15% that we're looking at instead of the 10%.
The original 10 that was discussed.
And the webpage will correct that so that
Yes.
folks can see the difference.
Yes,
And
that-
that was an oversight.
Yes.
Can I ask too, can we put this information, we've consumed a wealth of information leading up to this over the last 4 months. Can some of that be presented
Yeah, I was going to ask the
near
same
the
thing.
public comment, where people can submit public comments so they also have it? Make sure that it's clearly available to the public to view as well.
Okay, so we have a motion, we have a second. We have any further discussion? Okay, so I'm going to ask all those in favor of the amendment?
Which is 30 days.
30 days?
30 days. Public comment.
Opposed? The amendment carries. Thank you very much. Two, it's 5-2. Okay. So now that that's been, we've amended the resolution for a 30-day period. So we need to vote on the resolution. Any other discussion on the resolution itself? I'll call for the question. All those in favor?
No, we just opened a public comment.
Well, the thing is, no. We're talking item 4.
We voted to amend it.
Okay, we voted to amend.
Yeah.
Okay? We haven't approved the amended resolution.
Oh,
gotcha.
Okay, so we have to approve the amended resolution. Okay, everybody with me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion on the amended resolution?
Yes, sir.
I know it gets complicated sometimes. Okay, I'll call for the question. All those in favor of the amended resolution?
Yes.
Those opposed? No, motion carries. Thank you very much. So we'll see this again in 30 days. Okay? All right. Now we're ready to move on to item number 5, Mrs. Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2019-101, amendments to Chapter 52, Solid Waste Collection and Disposal, City Code of Ordinances, to allow private recycling collectors and declaring a public record be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Ms. Osborne, may we have the staff report, please?
Mayor and members of the council, the resolution before you contains amendments to the city's Code of Ordinance, Chapter 52, as shown in Exhibit A, to allow private recycling collectors to collect and remove recyclable materials from residential properties and business establishments. I'll give you a brief overview of the changes. There are 3 revisions in Section 5202 definitions. The definitions for collector and licensee were revised to include wording for recycling. Section 5203 Solid Waste Collection System established. Paragraph A clarifies that private collectors performing residential recycling services shall obtain a city business license as pursuant to Chapter 110 of the City Code. Private collectors conducting commercial recycling services shall obtain a commercial solid waste license pursuant to provisions in Section 5215 through 5223 of this chapter. An exception was added to Section 5209, Prohibited Acts, Paragraph E, Subsection 3, to allow for an approved licensed collector to collect and remove recyclable materials. In Section 5218, Insurance, Paragraph B, language was added to clarify insurance coverages for all licensees conducting residential recycling services. Staff anticipates that allowing privatization of recycling and closing the recycling drop-off center will save the city $140,000, The resolution will also declare the amendments to be a public record for 30 days. Any public comments received during the review period will be considered, and an ordinance containing all amendments to Chapter 52 will then be presented to Council on January 16. The changes will take effect 30 days after, if approved, on February 15th.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Comments or questions? And again, this is up for 30-day review. Anybody?
I just want
Go
to make
ahead.
sure we're real clear. So we're looking at this item, and the $140,000 savings is calculated into the proposed fee and rate increases to help make the fund whole, correct?
That's correct.
Thank you.
Yeah, the other thing I'll mention is, although the city would be not involved in recycling, the public still has the opportunity to go recycle at the county drop-off point at the transfer station. Okay, that needs to get out here too. Ma'am?
This resolution just makes amendments to Chapter 52. We are talking about the closing of the recycling center to allow privatization to come in, but
Yep.
this resolution doesn't
Doesn't do that.
do that. That's like an administrative.
Mayor Mueller, Council Member Pacheco, the ordinance as presented would allow for commercial recyclers to come in and take part in the recycling business in Sierra Vista. It doesn't necessarily mean that the city has to get out of the recycling business.
That's correct.
So,
But I just added my comment because I wanted to make clear to folks that that is obviously the direction we're heading. The timing and everything else, we still need to get information out to the folks. So if we do go down that road, we do it ahead of time and do it in a way where people understand what's going on.
Well,
Public hearing.
this is public hearing.
Yeah.
I have one more comment.
Ma'am.
I would venture to also say that, just a comment that those interested or that privatization of refuse could change how refuse operates. You know, this is kind of a test, maybe a test run or an example that we'll see how privatization of recycling goes in the city, and definitely something to watch and keep in mind as we look, you know, further down the road.
Thank you very much. Any other comments or questions? Discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We'll now move to new business. Item number 6, Ms. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that ordinance 2019-008, Development Code Text Amendments to Accessory Dwelling Units, Section 151.02004, Definition, Section 151.06010, Accessory Dwelling Units, and Section 151.22006, Matrix of Use Permissions by Zoning District be approved.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. McLaughlin, may we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this ordinance seeks to ease the permitting process for accessory dwelling units in single-family residential zoning districts. The accessory unit can be integrated into the main house or located in a detached accessory structure as incidental and subordinate to the principal dwelling, both in size and intensity, to minimize impact. Legally, the ADU is part of the same property as the main home and can't be sold separately. It's essentially 1.5 family zoning. People build them for many reasons, but most common goals are gaining income through rent and housing a family member. Our guidance for the proposed amendments come from the city's general plan. A supporting strategy to goal 12.1, promote quality affordable rental housing, is to encourage new regulations to permit accessory dwelling units. We believe this to mean to make the process more efficient while ensuring quality compatible construction. The proposed amendments would replace the uncertainty associated with the conditional use permitting process with design development standards that are commonly associated with accessory dwelling units. The permitting process would entail a compliance review by planning and zoning for consistency with development code requirements before a building permit is issued by the building division. Adjacent property owners will be notified of the permit request and will have an opportunity to comment. Those comments that relate to the development standards will be considered. We have received comments from 5 individuals on this ordinance. 2 residents are against written notice to neighbors. That was considered pretty important by the Planning and Zoning Commission. 2 public comments expressed concern that the accessory dwelling units would be used as short-term rentals. And as I mentioned at the work session, Arizona state law prohibits towns and cities from regulating short-term rentals. However, we retain the authority to regulate against public nuisances that they may cause, which historically hasn't been a problem here in the city. If you've already talked about the issue of allowing a separate address or utility meter, one member is concerned that allowing this would convey the perception of multifamily and erode single-family character. One person favors removing the requirement that any addition or newly detached accessory dwelling unit be designed in a complementary manner to the main house. We received another comment expressing concern that the ordinance may conflict with deed restrictions in HOA neighborhoods. As I mentioned before, if the ordinance is approved, we will add a notarized affidavit for the property owner to sign with the permit application attesting that they've investigated and found no deed restrictions prohibiting an accessory dwelling unit from being constructed on the property in the manner being proposed. With that, our recommendation is to approve the ordinance as presented, finding it to be consistent with the city's general plan. And with that, I'll answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin. Questions for Mr. McLaughlin?
I have a comment.
Please.
I actually would like, I still feel strongly that I would like to make an amendment to remove section F of this ordinance that gives an occupant maximum for ADUs.
Just a second here. We're talking.
And I'll give you my reasoning. Do I make a motion first, or I give you my reasoning first?
Well, let's make sure everybody's on the same page with it. You talking?
So section 151.06.010, section F.
The number of occupants.
The number of it says that the maximum number of occupants in an ADU is 2 persons.
And your argument against that?
I see that as over-regulatory, and my reasoning is I can think of 3 examples just from my own personal experience in Sierra Vista of individuals who used an accessory dwelling unit or even an addition to their home to take in either family members or someone, and those family members actually in 2 of the circumstances were both single mothers who one had my across the street neighbor, she had lost her husband and ended up the family took in the sister, and she had multiple children. And so she had multiple children.
Did they build
And
an
they
accessory
built an
room
accessory-
specifically for that?
Yes, they
family?
did.
Okay.
So they built an accessory dwelling unit because they knew it was going to be hopefully short term, but it's not going to be that short of term, right? It's because there was a hardship in the family, so they're going to have a little longer term. The family eventually got back on their feet, but it took a little while, so that I can think of just 3 instances where that particular section would have not worked, or would, just off the top of my head, just in my own personal experience, I felt like that was over-regulatory. That's all.
Actually, we should probably have a motion to amend if that's what you recommend.
I would like to do, and I don't know. Sure.
Is this discussion time? or
No, we
amendment
need
time?
to have we need to see if we have a motion to amend.
So, Mr. Mayor,
Eliminating.
I would like to make a motion to amend ordinance 2019-008, section 151.02.004, to remove section F.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
There's a second. Discussion.
Oh, you go ahead first.
I have a couple of sentences about this. One, it would be a good tool to have in circumstances that did not involve a mother and her 3 kids. If we needed, as a community, to regulate or enforce something around why are 4 people in this place having a party when it's against the law to do that, or against our ordinance, city ordinance. But I wanted to actually wonder, how would we regulate whether a person was in a house with 3 kids or there were 4 adults using one of these ADUs?
Well,
just
I think the regulation comes in, it's all complaint-based. And one of the neighbors would have to say, hey, I think we have more than 2 people living in the accessory unit. And then the enforcement folks from Matt's office would have to follow up and eventually take some type of administrative action to correct that if we leave the number at 2. And that's the way that happens. So it's on a complaint-based basis. We're not going to be knocking on everybody's door and counting noses on a regular basis.
Yeah, they have plenty of time to do that.
Yeah.
So I just want to say my only issue, and I understand there are special exceptions, but my issue is that whole reason we're doing the standardization of this and doing away with conditional use permit is to preserve the integrity of our neighborhoods. And if we start getting into multifamily type situations in single family zoning, then which can happen again. That's why the standard of 2 is there to avoid that. So I just think we have to be very, very careful, understanding there are exceptions. And again, it's complaint based. So unless there's major issues, I doubt we will ever even know that there are more than 2 people there. So I'm in favor of leaving it the way it is.
Yes, ma'am.
For me, I actually agree with Councilmember Pacheco. I also have, just in my gut, I have a problem with complaint-based enforcement. I feel like something is either important or it's not important, so we enforce it or we don't enforce it. So if we put something in that basically we can't enforce, then I don't understand the point of that. I also think there are square footage, and it can only be 1 bedroom. I think there are other things in the statute that would pretty much limit how many people could live in that area.
That would be the hope, but.
Can I also, I mean, on complaint-based enforcement, we here this year that enforcement, so it shouldn't be a big problem, but there is a street near near Wachuca Mountain Elementary School. I used to work for the district, so everything's near this school or that school. That's how I think in this. Parked their recreational vehicle across their a big spray painted sign that says "Your Move."
It's over by McDonald's.
Yeah.
That is.
What does that mean?
Because neighbors can be picky sometimes, so then we incited a neighborhood war. War's too strong a word, but do you know what I'm saying? That's so I think that I agree with if we're going to enforce it, then enforce it, and if we've set something that is unenforceable, then.
Well, I don't think the 2 people is unenforceable.
Mm-hmm.
It's the thing is, once it has to be discovered first, then it is enforceable.
But when
That's
they
the difference.
originally apply.
And when they originally apply, they have to state in the application that it will be no more than 2, so they are aware of what the
rule.
requirements are.
It's not a
Now,
surprise.
the question then is, what happens in the code if, in fact, they would like an exception to policy for a 6-month period or a year period because they have maybe an infant with the parents coming to live? I mean, is there a provision, Matt, for that type of a thing?
Not as written.
So there's no exception there's no way they ask for an exception for the requirement for no more than 2 people, as the code is written now.
There's no appeal
We
process?
There's no appeal
previously
process?
discussed, it would be the variance process through the hearing officer. There's very strict criteria. It's essentially permission to break the law, and they have to be unique circumstances attributable to the property, not, something different about that property relative to similarly situated properties in the same zoning district. We'd be hard pressed as staff to recommend approval of that request. You could consider a substantial amendment to this ordinance, which would delay the approval process to perhaps make it a conditional use, go back to the conditional use, which would involve public hearings. But again, these units are designed to be,
And I think that's
to accommodate, 1 or 2 people. I mean, it's,
And that's a good point that Ms. Wolf made, is based on the size, more than 2 people for a long period of time would not, by itself, would restrict the action. So I think that was or the living conditions. So that's, I think is a good point.
Mayor Mueller, perhaps the use of the term adults,
Well,
might help, because then you're not counting in children in the numbers.
I guess this question's for Matt too, mostly.
Actually.
At what point does this, a single-family resident zoning turn into multifamily residence?
Okay, so what you're talking about is two-family
Dwellings on one lot.
land use?
Yes.
Which is essentially two dwelling units designed for families on the same parcel.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so in that case, there is no, maximum size of the dwelling units regulated by, setbacks and
Okay.
lot coverage. So, again, we're stretching the single-family zoning to accommodate something, an extension of the house, essentially a separate living quarters, designed and intended to be subordinate to the principal use as a single-family residence to accommodate, typically it's an extended family member. It could be used as rental. Generally, it's both ends of the age spectrum, cash-strapped college graduates moving back in with their parents or elderly parents with a disability. However, it could, be in the middle. It could be a single mom with a child. But given, the accessory dwelling unit has to be half the size or up to no larger than half the size of the main house, one bedroom, and to minimize, the potential impacts to adjoining neighbors, our recommendation is to not blur the line between single and multifamily land uses by, imposing the recommended use restrictions.
Could I ask Sarah, since you proposed the amendment, Sarah proposed the amendment, would the change the simple word occupants to adults, would that meet your concerns?
I mean, how could that be in?
Well, that means that if you have parents with 2 or 3 kids,
Mhm.
rather than just, so the kids wouldn't count as occupants. The kids count as occupants, they wouldn't count as adults. So
Mhm.
essentially, the situation you're describing with a single mom coming in with 2 or 3 kids, there's only one adult there rather than 2 occupants, and that would be okay, but if there are 2 occupants, all the kids count as occupants. So would that language change help?
Let me just add one final point, and I'll sit back and listen. So when I vacation on a temporary basis, we all squeeze into, a hotel room. And potentially that could become a problem if the, tourism market continues to thrive like we hope it will. Where, on a short-term basis, you have, families, renting out these accessory dwelling units. So I would just ask you to consider, that. I mean, on a long-term basis, it may not be an issue, but if it does change, occupancies on a frequent basis, it could potentially present, greater impacts on the neighborhood.
So I think, Matt, what you're saying basically is like if someone were to come in with an Airbnb, I mean,
Right.
And you have 3 children, correct? So it's 5 of you.
Yes.
Yeah, can't even believe that you would stay in the same hotel room with that many people.
We try not to, but sometimes, depending on the city.
But I think what you're trying to drive home, the point is if we don't have that occupancy rate, then potentially with Airbnbs, with short-term rentals and things like that, again, we're getting back into changing the character of the neighborhoods. Because they could
Potentially.
they could
Again,
potentially.
that's going to be probably the
Well, we don't have a
small
crystal
percentage,
ball, but
right,
it can
of
happen.
cases,
Yeah.
but it could happen.
So it's just something to consider, is what you're saying.
I don't like making regulation based on potentials. You said it hasn't been a problem. It hasn't been something that has been we don't have a lot of Airbnbs in Sierra Vista or requests for them.
We have a lot.
We have a lot of
Well, I mean, we don't have, but we haven't had them being used as party houses, as you said. You said that has not been a problem. That's been stated over and over.
Was not a problem, not Airbnbs.
Okay, so I'm saying we're trying to create a solution to something that's not a problem.
I mean,
Safeguards.
that's exactly what we're doing. Thank you.
What did you say?
No.
I didn't hear what he said.
We're safeguarding.
Okay. You made the second. I'm just gonna ask you flat out, do you have a problem with changing the word occupant to adult?
Yeah, I still think it's still the same issue.
Okay.
I think it's overregulation for the sake of regulation.
So,
agree.
So-
ma'am,
I just, because I was on the same page with them on Tuesday until we talked about it. I felt like, why are we telling them how many people can live in 800 square feet or whatever? But after hearing the discussion, these neighborhoods, the people who purchased homes in these single-family neighborhoods, they had the intention of living in a single-family neighborhood. It's not, I don't feel like it's right of us to go ahead and change that so drastically by not limiting the number. And so that's why I've changed my mind since Tuesday. Just, that's where I came from.
any other discussion?
No, I agree with Carolyn. You change the makeup of the neighborhood, you're affecting my value of my house now and the other values of the house in the neighborhood. And our job is not just to make sure regulations there and protect individuals, it's to protect everybody. So, because somebody wants one, if it affects 10 people in that neighborhood, then we're doing a disjustice to 10 people for one person.
Okay.
So by keeping the quality of life or the nature of what you purchased when you moved into that zone, that's what we're looking at to keep. So if after a while I get, and I don't think it's an issue, I don't think people are turning up and doing backflips to build an ADU, but we can't let it change the neighborhood's makeup for those people that are invested in that area already.
Okay, any other discussion? I'm gonna go ahead and call for the question if there's no further discussion. And just to make sure that you understand, the amendment was to eliminate the subparagraph F under section 151-06-010, okay? That's what we're voting on, whether or not we're gonna eliminate paragraph F. Okay? That being seen, all in favor of eliminating that paragraph? Opposed? It fails, 5-2. Thank you very much.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we change paragraph F from occupants to adults.
So it should say, so the paragraph F would then read, number of adults, no more than 2 adults may reside in accessory dwelling unit. Do you get that, Matt? Okay, and that should be a minor amendment, I'm hoping, so we don't have to go out and redo this whole thing. Attorney?
I believe it would be a minor amendment.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're straight there. So, motion's been made. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion.
I think it's better than.
It's better than.
Okay.
I'll
I
agree
still
with that.
think it's the same exact issues. I don't think it does anything.
Mr. Mayor, here's my reasoning, and I wanted to wait for Councilwoman Wolf or Pacheco to speak on it. Here's the reason I say, if I'm moving into I'm a college student, and I come home, and God forbid I did not do the wrong thing, but something breaks or something happens, and I have a baby. That's 3 of us now where I can't afford to move out. So it gives that 6-month grace period or that 3-month grace period for someone to save the money up, build the down payment, and do whatever they have to do because circumstances dictate. We can say this is what we want to be, but we still got to be nice and humanly and neighborly. So things do happen where, like Sarah said, a mother gets divorced and she has 3 kids. She needs somewhere temporarily to go. So if we use kids as a negative thing, what are we saying to everybody? in the community where kids are a positive thing. We got to take care of them in those circumstances, and it eliminates a waiver process to where I got to ask permission to let my kid live with me.
I have a comment. As a formerly cash-strapped mom that moved back home, and I was also a mother of twin babies, and I moved back in while my husband was deployed and moved into my parents' little extra place. We would have been over that limit right away because I had twins and not one baby. So, just saying.
Okay. Any other discussion? We'll wait till Mr. Benning gets back before I call for the question. But again, the proposed amendment was to change paragraph to F to read number of adults, no more than two adults may reside in the accessory dwelling unit. Do we have any further discussion? I'll call for the vote on the amendment. All those in favor? Opposed? One, so it passes 6-1. Thank you very much. Now we go back to approving the item as amended. Any further discussion on the item as amended? Seeing nothing, I'll call for the question on the item as amended. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. McLaughlin, for leading us through that. We now move on to, I believe it's item 6? 7. Oh, we're finally getting some progress, huh? Okay, item number 7. Ms. Humphrey. Speak too early.
Am I supposed to be doing something?
Item 7.
Oh my gosh. Okay, sorry.
Don't worry about
It's,
it.
oh my gosh. Okay. Thank you for that. Mr. Mayor, I move that resolution 2019-102, accepting the donation of an animal rescue trailer by the Friends of Animal Shelter, be approved.
I second.
It's been moved and seconded. Chief Thrasher.
We're fighting to second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. It is my pleasure to present this resolution to you, accepting the donation of the animal care mobile trailer from the Friends of the Service to Animal Shelter. They have worked tirelessly over the years to raise the money for this, which the brainchild came out of the Monument Fire regarding all the evacuations that we had to do. This trailer will be used for checkups, adoption events, animal rescue, and hoarding situations. It is out front. If you guys saw it as you came in, it is a beautiful trailer. They've worked very diligently to get this done for us, and we certainly appreciate all the work they did. So with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions, and they're also here to answer any questions if you guys have any.
Thank you, Chief Thrasher. I had the opportunity to go out and look at it just before the meeting. It is an excellent trailer. We really appreciate the continued support of the Friends of the Animal Shelter in Sierra Vista. It at times has been a challenge, but we seem to have more fun and activities at the animal shelter than ever before, to include this Saturday from noon on.
Showing.
Rachel time.
That will be, yeah. That item will be at the animal shelter, and we really appreciate all the efforts and the ongoing efforts. And again, as I mentioned with our friends from the high school with the robotics team, if you have a couple extra coins to rub together and you're looking for a good cause to donate to, the Friends of the Animal Shelter are a great cause. Any comments from council or questions?
Oh, yes, sir. You want to go?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say congratulations. I remember when Jane Strain came to me years ago. She had, I think, $100 the Friends of the Animal Shelter had saved up, and they presented a pitch. This is what we want to do. I won't lie, I thought they were crazy. We'd never raised that much money, but we did good. It's a gorgeous trailer. I seen it it was in the Christmas parade too. So thank y'all, and just thank you for everything y'all do. It shows the commitment by the community, but all it takes is 2 or 3 people, 4 or 5 people, and we get stuff done in Sierra Vista. So I'm happy for y'all as the Friends of the Animal Shelter, and I'm happy for the community because we got a nice piece of equipment.
Madam Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. Again, I just want to say congratulations also, and so happy that Jane and I can look at new projects going forward instead of this So, but no, you guys are a fantastic board. You're obviously very, very passionate about this. It's an issue that's very close to my heart, obviously. And I really appreciate your work. That trailer is fantastic. And I think based on the Nerds presentation, you have found your next project. So we'll start raising funds for that next week.
Anybody else?
Yes, I want to also thank you for all your hard work in raising the money and making it happen. I haven't seen the inside, but I was being given a description, and I know it's going to make such an impact, a great impact for the community, and I'm excited to see it in action. So thank you and congratulations.
Okay, anyone else? Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
just add a thank you, and that this group worked so hard. I
Yes,
mean,
they
they worked
did.
so hard and they're so dedicated. You will not find, well, we have a lot of groups, but you will find another group that just, they work so hard, and I'm so grateful for all you do, and that's all. Just thank you.
Okay, if there's nothing else, we'll call for the resolution. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Congratulations. We now move on to item number 8. Ms. Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2019-103, official intent to be reimbursed for certain capital expenditures, be approved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Mr. Felix, may we have the staff report, please?
Mayor, members of council, this is an annual thing we do every year. During the budget process, we discuss items that we're purchasing that we plan on financing at the end of the fiscal year. By packaging the items at the end of the fiscal year, we actually save money. If we were to purchase them, do the financing at the beginning of the year, you'd pay interest on items you don't have in stock, and trustees will not pay you as much interest as they're collecting from you. Also, it gives us the option that if we decide not to finance something because we have enough cash on hand, revenues are better, or we got a better price for it, we do not have to. We are not stuck doing it, or if things do not come in, we're not stuck with the money sitting there. The IRS regulations do require that the council pass its intent to be reimbursed, which is what this resolution meets that requirement, that will allow us to finance it at the end of the fiscal year if we wish to. Be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Felix. Any questions for Mr. Felix? And this is I'll just say again that this was discussed in some detail at the work session, and this is something that's a routine thing we do as part of the budget process. So I thank you for your efforts, Mr. Felix. If nobody's got any other comments, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? We got one abstention, one absentee, and 6-4 is the result of the 6-4, 6-0, and one absentee is the count for the vote. Sorry.
It's late.
6-4, one absent, 0 against. Okay, we there?
Favor, I get
Yeah.
it now.
Okay.
6
in
for
favor.
it, not
There we go.
6-4.
Okay.
6 for it. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah,
Got it?
we're all
It's been a
getting
long
slap
meeting.
happy.
No, I thought I was getting slap happy. Okay. So that's item number 8. We could now go on to item number 9. Mr. Benning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2019-104, authorizing the city to accept a grant offer from the Arizona State Parks Non-Motorized Grant Program be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mrs. Flassar, may we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, this agenda item will accept a grant from the Arizona State Parks Non-Motorized Grant Program for the Garden Canyon Linear Park. The improvements will take place near the trailhead at St. Andrews Drive. There is an existing unimproved trailhead at the location, but the funding from this grant will add a stable parking surface and an ADA-compliant area. The improvements will provide a base for future master plan improvements to the park. The grant amount is $80,000 with an in-kind city match of about $12,000. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have.
Before we get started, I just want to ask this question that I know we've had some preliminary plans for that particular park. This fits in with that, right?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, yes, this is fully consistent with those plans.
Okay, thank you. Questions, discussion? You're getting off easy tonight.
Yep.
Seeing none, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? So that is 6-4. And one absent and none against, okay? That's, okay. We're all straight on that? All right.
Had it for a while. We'll take it back.
Item 10 is next. Mrs. Pacheco.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I move that Resolution 2019-105, approving an intergovernmental agreement supporting the operation of the Cochise County Tourism and Economic Council be approved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Mr. Patuchik, may we have the staff report, please?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, for the past 20 years, Sierra Vista has participated with Cochise County and the other municipalities, minus Huachuca City, in the Cochise County Tourism Council. Over the past year, there were discussions amongst the group about the marketing focus of the Tourism Council. As you realize, in the past, we focused on more of an Old West cultural type of theme in our countywide marketing efforts. Of course, with the landscape changing out there, with the wine business, the outdoor recreational opportunities, and other things that Cochise County as a whole offers, the group determined that we would like to expand our marketing efforts and also include economic development as part of the council's mission. The city of Tombstone determined that they would not want to participate in that type of arrangement and basically provided the catalyst for us to look at changing the nature of the agreement to form the Cochise County Tourism and Economic Development Council. So this agreement takes that into account. Funding in the past was at a $20,000 level, and that remains the same going forward with this agreement. I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Patuchik. Comments or questions? Yes, ma'am.
Just a comment, from our previous discussions, I understand that this is a good neighbor kind of a activity we're doing within the county, because we benefit also from the type of marketing that's happening on the countywide level. In addition, we continue to fund, and I hope adequately. That hasn't been part of the conversation at this time, and I don't want to add it in now, but funding our own economic development department and marketing department, which I've seen a lot of work out of those two departments, and it's extreme quality for our community. So I appreciate that we're doing the countywide marketing, but I also feel how important and want to just state how important what our own citywide economic development has been doing and will continue.
And certainly it's not the only piece, and they are they can be complementary.
Thank you, that's right.
And Mayor Mueller, Councilmember Calhoun, it is true that in many countywide agreements, CCOM being an example, the city of Sierra Vista does step up and, provide fiscal agent services for these types of agreements. And we do it across a number of things, and that's simply because we have the staff capability and size to be able to do that. So, we will roll this into our normal work effort with our marketing and economic development staff, and hopefully it can be an augmentation to what we do as opposed to an extra workload item for them.
Any other comments?
I'll just add, we did talk briefly about how do we understand the benefit to the community to participate in this, and we don't know that we have a specific way to measure that beyond the fact that generally what benefits some will benefit all. That's
Yeah,
fair
Mayor
enough.
Mueller, Councilmember Calhoun, actually, marketing staff has developed some metrics, as I mentioned at the work session, and I don't think we got those out to you yet, but we will get that to you as soon as possible.
And it will also be on the website for the public to see.
Okay. Anything else? Seeing nothing, I'll call for the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. We next move to call the public. Tonight, we have a number of folks that would like to speak with us tonight, and I would like to have Mr. Vincent Bright come to the microphone and address us.
Well, you know.
Good evening, Mayor and councils. I'm Vincent Bright, Minister Vincent Bright. I bring you greeting from Chicago, Illinois. Next door to Obama House. That's where I used to stay. I came to Arizona 3 years ago in a 36-foot RV, and I brought in a business, Lyft. I don't know anybody know about Lyft and Uber. There was no signal down here. There was no signal to the people. So I request the signal to come down to Arizona. So we did get the signal down to Arizona, and we are able to pick up passenger at a cheap rate and bring them to wherever they wanted to go. Now, we are a safe driver. We have 9 drivers here in this little town. But the problem is now, we come up with this is our signal, called a Lyft. It sits in our windshield. And what happened is, when it comes on, in the back of it, where the passengers sit, it says, hello, your name, whoever sits in the car, and this is facing on the on our dash like this, with this signal. It let the passenger know that we are the one to come get you. And when you come in, we do not accept anyone. It has to be that person's name. It's registered to your phone. The problem is we have a problem with the officer giving citation and warning that this is sitting in our windshield. I come today to find out what is the problem and why we are issuing these citations. We are who we are to pick you up. If you listen to the news, what's happening is on the news, people are getting into the wrong car. It might be a car looking just like it, and people getting in the wrong car, and they have been abducted, have been raped and everything else. We are registered through the whole United States, for this. And I just wanted to know, why are we getting? Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bright. I just want to ask you one question. Have you talked to the police chief yet?
No, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm not getting no.
I'll introduce you to him after the meeting if you can hang around.
Thank you.
And we'll figure this one out, because from what you presented, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right.
Okay, so
thank you.
We'll see if we can straighten it out. Thank you, sir. Matthew Haupt.
Hey, good evening. I am Matthew Haupt, newly appointed Commissioner to the Environmental Affairs Commission. I know everybody's getting a little tired, but I wanted to take the opportunity to introduce myself and to make a statement. Fair warning, I'll use the entire 5 minutes likely. Mayor, councilpersons, happy holidays. It's an honor to be a new commissioner with the EAC. Sierra Vista is blessed to have so much passionate community involvement. At a recent council working meeting where changes to boards and commissions were proposed, the city manager commented that Sierra Vista has more boards and commissions than most other municipalities of equivalent size. This is something to be proud of. I feel that in this time of climate change, when humanity is beginning to understand our impact on the planet, Sierra Vista should be especially proud to have an Environmental Affairs Commission. The United Nations Global Assessment Report on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services states, among other findings, that 75% of terrestrial and 66% of marine environment severely altered by human actions, up to 1 million species threatened with extinction, many within decades. Greater than 2,500 conflicts over fossil fuels, water, food, and land currently occurring worldwide. Sir Robert Watson, who led the report, said, "It is not too late to make a difference, but only if we start now at every level, from local to global. Through transformative change, nature still can be conserved, restored, and used sustainably. He goes on to recognize that, by its very nature, transformative change can expect opposition from those with interests vested in the status quo, but also that such opposition can be overcome for the broader public good. We are very blessed here in Sierra Vista and Cochise County to be surrounded by extraordinary natural beauty. It's easy to think these issues don't affect us, but they do. Our choices and actions at a local level affect the world, and likewise, we are impacted by choices and actions made at a national and global level. Many people are recognizing that we must change the status quo despite opposition by vested interests. The youth of our nation understand this. Since 2015, Juliana versus United States, or Youth Climate Lawsuit, has been making its way through the federal courts on its way to the U.S. Supreme Court. The complaint asserts that through the government's affirmative actions that cause climate change, it has violated the youngest generation's constitutional rights to life, liberty, and property, as well as failed to protect essential public trust resources. This case initially represented 21 youth plaintiffs, but now effectively represents tens of thousands of young people. Whatever the outcome of the lawsuit, it's clear that change is needed and even demanded. The question for us is, what can we do at the local level to protect the environment? The country of Bolivia is struggling to cope with rising temperatures, melting glaciers, and more extreme weather events, including more frequent floods, droughts, frosts, and mudslides. Sounds a little bit like California. This country is rich in mineral deposits, and powerful vested interests in the status quo profit from mining while the population does not. Yet Bolivia's Plurinational Legislative Assembly in December 2010 passed a law commonly known as the Law of the Rights of Mother Earth. The law enumerates specific rights to Mother Earth, including the right to life and to exist, the right to the diversity of life, the right to clean water, the right to clean air, the right to equilibrium, the right to restoration, and the right to live free of contamination. Imagine if the beautiful landscape around us, the actual land and wildlife in Sierra Vista, Cochise County, our state, or even our country had these rights. We certainly wouldn't have Dow Chemical and Howard Buffett's Iroquois LLC using airplanes to blanket the border landscape with herbicide killing trees, shrubs, cactuses, and other native flora right in our backyard. Clearly, laws can change, but our culture has to change too. This is the right time for our city to have an Environmental Affairs Commission. I applaud Sierra Vista for this. I think the environment should be considered in every decision made by our honorable council, and I feel the EAC can be a valuable asset to you. Thank you for your time, council.
Thank you, Mr. Haupt.
You're welcome.
We now move on to Terry Culp.
Good evening. First off, I'd like to express my gratitude to the City Council and staff for the opportunity to speak tonight. I've been a resident since 2001. One of the things I enjoy is walking around the neighborhood. However, that enjoyment has, on several occasions, been interrupted by having to yield to a bicyclist riding on the sidewalk that I'm walking on. I have more than once nearly collided with bicyclists. Now, one might think that common sense and courtesy would prevent this situation, but they don't. After doing some research, including contacts with city officials, I have learned that there are no restrictions or ordinances in place that ban bicycle riding on the sidewalk. It is bad enough that this practice is inconsiderate, but apparently here in Sierra Vista, it is legal. So, respectfully, I am requesting that the city enact an ordinance to address this potentially hazardous situation. If enacted, it would be appreciated by pedestrians and possibly even a benefit to the city. If such an ordinance was in place, it could provide those two words that every city treasurer likes to hear, revenue enhancement. However, as things stand now, should there be an injury due to a bicycle pedestrian collision, the two words that get the attention of any city attorney, litigation mitigation, would surely be heard. In closing, the Arizona Department of Public Safety website has a page devoted to bicycle safety. It clearly states, "Do not ride on the sidewalk." It also mentions that several Arizona cities have enacted ordinances banning riding bicycles on the sidewalk. I can only hope that our city joins that list. Chasing pedestrians off the sidewalk is just wrong. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Culp. We'll look into that important issue, important safety issue. Okay. That ends the call to the public. We now go to comments and requests of council. We'll start tonight with Mrs. Pacheco.
Forgot I was first. I know. No, I would just be very short because we've had a long meeting. I wanted to give a big shout out and congratulations to Parks and Recreation and the Public Affairs Office for the tree lighting. It was a huge turnout. I brought my kids and we could like barely get through the crowd. There were so many people crammed into between the trees. I mean, I didn't expect the whole park to be full, but they were. They loved it. The town was so excited for a Christmas event like that. So really, really, really good job. A lot of fun. And a thank you and congratulations, I of course left, but to George and Madison from the Airport and Youth Commissions respectively. It was a pleasure working with them both. George especially is going to be sorely missed on the Airport Commission. He has turned out, and he did a wonderful job as our chairman for a long time, and he's going to be sorely missed. Congratulations to David for the CAFR, and I've just been really delighted to see all of the awesome things our students are doing. We've seen 4 groups of students in the last 2 meetings come forward and share their work and their accomplishments with us. I think that's a really positive, awesome thing to see, that we have good kids in the schools that are accomplishing and doing good things. And thank you again to Friends of the Animal Shelter, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, you guys.
Thank you. Ms. Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to thank all the commissioners who have served or who have stepped up to serve. That's really great, and we definitely need your input, and we're thankful for that. I want to echo what everybody said about the Friends of the Animal Shelter, and I want to say happy holidays, and during this time, also please remember those that are still in need, and if you can help them out, please feel free to. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Benning.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Like everyone else, I want to thank the commissioners for stepping up and serving. I also want to say congrats to the Buena Nerds and good luck to the first LEGO Leagues from George Clark Middle School this Saturday. And now it's kind of personal. I want to say thank you, one, to the citizens of Sierra Vista. It's been 1 year since myself, Carolyn Humphreys, and Sarah Pacheco were elected to represent this amazing community. I'm blessed every day. It seems like yesterday I took my first seat here on the dais and was scared to death. And so I want to thank the other council members and yourself, Mr. Mayor, for working with us, educating us, and putting up with us on some occasions. And same with the staff. I don't think there's a person's office we don't walk into and they open the door. Here's coffee. Here's lunch. What do you need to know? We're here to help you. So I appreciate that, Chuck, to you and your staff. One, Merry Christmas, but thank you. But mostly to the community. And I'm going to end with saying thank you to somebody in the audience. But the community's been great. Whether they disagree or agree with us, they understand. All 7 of us up here do our best, use our good judgment, our judgment. We gather information to make the decisions we make. we might be right, we might be wrong, but we stand by it. We listen to the community, just like waiting another 30 days before we pass something. We want to be transparent. We want to listen to you, the people in the community. So I just want to say thank you to them. And then to Mr. DiCarlo, who we may not agree with everything one-on-one, but we do have good conversations. So I'm going to just end with Merry Christmas to everybody. And I think it's Go Army, beat Navy. Thanks for your service, brother.
Thank you, Mr. Benning. Mrs. Humphrey.
I'll echo everything they said because I completely agree. And I want a special thanks to Rosie Mackey. She was our chair, as everyone, I think everyone knows her in this room. She likes to call herself the nosy neighbor. So I'm sure she'll still be involved and very active in some way or another, even though she's terming out as our chair after serving for a very long time on the West End Commission. And I really appreciate all she has taught me since coming on. And yeah, this is our first year ending, and we didn't burn down City Hall. So yeah, still standing.
Was that a specific goal?
Not at the moment. But, I change my mind from time to time. Okay. So, yes, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and I hope everyone has a Happy New Year, and we'll see you next year. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Calhoun.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also agree with all the things that have been said before, and there's no need to repeat it. I want to encourage everyone out there to respond to the public hearing items, and even if that's not of terrific interest to you, think about it and let us know what you think. And also tell your friends to do the same thing. We need to hear from the public on so many of these issues. Matthew, I want to thank you for your comments about the EAC, and I would like to have a copy of them so we can be sure that some of that is addressed when we discuss the EAC at probably at our next work session in January. Also, Mr. Culp, as the mayor mentioned, your item, where'd you go? Oh, your item was of interest and will be followed up on in addition to, and I'm sorry I didn't get your name, Mr. Chicago, but I did.
Mr. Bright.
Mr. Bright, I did hear it indicated that your issue would also, and that, by the way, is the further encouragement to our community to come to the council and address the issues that are important to you so that we don't always know about those issues. So it's very important that you do speak up. So we appreciate that. And I'll just end with checking my notes. This will take a minute. No, I'm kidding. Happy holidays to everyone, and thank you for attending our meeting.
Mayor Pro Tem Gray.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just forgot to mention Arlene when we were discussing the Friends and all the hard work that her and her staff put under Arlene's leadership. And she does a job that I don't think any of us up here would ever want to have to make some of the decisions that she has to make concerning animals and just pets in general. So I really appreciate it. And I know that Jane and Kathy and Brenda and all the people on the board have said to me over and over and over they would never have been able to get that trailer done without Arlene's assistance. So I just wanted to say thank you to her and her staff in front of her boss, Chief. So and then I'm glad you all mentioned your first year because it was in my notes to talk about. I'm so excited that we are through the first year, and it's been wonderful, and it's been so nice to have tonight a perfect example of issues where we don't all agree, issues where we have discussion and disagreement, sometimes agreement, but there's no pettiness involved. We're all just doing what's best for the city in our minds, and I really appreciate that, and I really look forward to working with you guys in the future, including the ones that were here already. So I want to work with you guys too. And then again, just Merry Christmas and Happy New Year, and please be safe, and because we want everybody back in January. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor Pro Tem. I just have a couple of things I want to talk about tonight. I failed to mention when we were talking about the Friends of the Animal Shelter, When you go down there on the Saturday at 12 o'clock, they have animals for adoption. So it's a good opportunity to find a friend, and please do that. I also want to congratulate Mrs. Melanie Edwards-Barton, who has recently been selected to be the director of the Sierra Vista Chamber after serving as an interim for a period of time. So we're looking forward to working with her as a city on a number of issues. Also, the United Veterans Council, who every year helps the city pick the Veteran of the Year, has done their work, and Colonel Carroll is the selection, and she has done a lot of work. And there will be an event. I think it's on the 18th of January, but don't quote me yet. I'll make sure that's straight, where she'll be recognized by the community as a Veteran of the Year. And with that, I just want to say Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I know during this time period there are a lot of folks that are traveling, so please be safe. Watch your consumption of alcohol. You don't want to have one of the chief's people visit you or spend some time at the county facility over the holidays. That's not the way to spend them properly. So please be safe. And I just want to make a quick comment on the bicycle safety issue. Now, I can appreciate almost being run over by a bicycle on a sidewalk, but I also would tell you that as somebody who's almost hit people driving on sidewalks where they weren't seen until they were right up on top of you a couple of times in the last several years, that's a challenge. So we have a challenge there to work on. We appreciate you bringing that issue forward, and I'm sure I'll be having conversations with the police chief and the city attorney about how we can better address a potential safety problem, because nobody wants to see anybody get hurt, period, whether it's a walker, a biker, or God forbid we have an accident with a car where we have serious damage done. So, seeing nothing else before council tonight, meeting's adjourned. Thank you.
Goodness, marathon.
No?
No,
Marathon.
it's the longest one in my history.
For us, it has been.
Yes, ma'am.
My leg.
This is one of two.